Hi, everybody. John from Maven Analytics here. I'm here with Giles from Fullstack Modeller, and today we're going to be talking about the differences between financial modeling careers and data analyst careers. And we've also got a couple of shameless plugs for some new intensive bootcamp type programs that we're offering. It's actually new for Maven, and it's something that Fullstack Modeller has been doing for quite a while now and having a lot of success. So welcome, Giles. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me, and really excited to dig into this.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you got the bit about the shameless plug in there, John. I was going to say that as well. Elephant in the room straight away. It's a pleasure to talk to you genuinely whenever we do. But yeah, we're going to hopefully uncover how aligned or how different financial modelers and data analysts actually are, and then talk about how people can come and join either the Fullstack community or the Maven Bootcamp. So yeah, looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with that first question. How well aligned do you see these two types of roles and career paths? Are they mutually exclusive? Is there some overlap? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think this has demystified itself for me probably in the last year or so, quite a lot down to the work that I've put into doing some of the Maven content. So thank you for that. I used to think that they were literally chalk and cheese, and I suppose there's elements of your typical data analyst, or maybe the career that a data analyst goes on, and that of a financial modeler that is definitely different. But I also now think there's a huge amount of overlap, and maybe we'll come on to talk about a lot of that in detail. I think the typical financial modeler and data analyst are problem solvers. I think there are probably those in both camps that can be and remain very techie. And the big difference of what takes somebody from being like a good modeler or a good data analyst into sort of world class to really stand out is those that can step beyond the data and be quite commercially astute and have that kind of bird's eye view of what's going on. So that's probably where I would start. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially after partnering with you for a while and seeing kind of the in-depth advanced Excel that's required in the financial modeler role, Power BI being seriously helpful there too. I think the overlap there is very obvious. The mindset in terms of people who are quantitative, inquisitive, have some decent business acumen, and probably a little bit of technical, just like you said. So I totally agree. I think there's probably a lot more overlap than there is difference. And people who are on one path, if they later decide they wanted to pivot, it's probably a fairly easy pivot for folks. But I would say there's probably also a lot of domain expertise that applies in each one. Like, for example, I've been a data analyst for over a decade. If you put me in a financial modeling role right now, I would certainly flounder, right? There's a lot that I would still need to learn. I think somebody with my skill set could absolutely get there, but there's lots of domain expertise. So yeah, I agree with everything you said, and I think we're serving similar people and who may want to go down slightly different paths that are quite related.
There's one area, and I don't know whether you think this is different. For me, financial modelers nowadays probably have to start building a fundamental understanding of data analytics. Like I'm not sure the financial modeler of 5 years ago who was just an Excel expert, maybe not even a power user in Excel. I'm not sure financial modelers can necessarily get away with that, because data is becoming such an important factor for companies and their performance. So for me, like, the modern financial modeler has to have that grounding in data analytics. I'm not sure whether that's the same for data analysts. Do you get the sense that many data analysts by trade ever worry about, I might have to build a 3-statement financial model, unless they're genuinely trying to switch careers?
No, I don't think so. I think I think when you get a little more senior in understanding of what does a balance sheet look like, what is an income statement, understanding of unit economics. So say you're a data analyst who works on marketing, it's important for you to understand the concepts of revenue, COGS, margin, kind of at that level. But in terms of like the stuff that you and the folks in your program get into with building models and thinking about net present value and simulating the future, all that stuff, definitely not stuff that I think most data analysts are required to or even super into during the normal role. That said, if somebody can do both, obviously it's a superpower. But yeah, I'd say it's not very typical, that type of specific stuff.
And do you think that throws up another difference, which is, financial modelers, it's probably given away in the title, they're always dealing with finance. And my impression is that actually a lot of data analysts might be dealing with non-financial data.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in the data analyst role, you could start working in operations or dealing with supply chain analytics or manufacturing, and the same skill sets of looking at the key metrics, optimizing things, coming up with recommendations. Those could apply really well to optimizing a marketing channel or optimizing a website, things like that. So I'd say the data analyst role is fairly broad, and it's not necessarily vertical specific and fairly transferable. But then, when it comes to looking at financial modeling or investment activity like that, it's probably a little bit shallower.
Yeah, that's great. And from a financial modeling perspective, there are a number of different career paths. So the way I could probably explain this is, you could be in an FP&A team, you could be working in an investment bank, you could be an accountant by trade, you might be working in something like project finance where the modeling is horrifically complex. So I think there's different types of modelers. I think there are those people, maybe investment banking is a good example of this, where doing the modeling work is something that you sort of have to do as part of a career path. But if you're looking to, get into the sort of VP, MD range later on in your career, it's probably a necessity that you want to get away from as fast as possible. So there's those people in the modeling industry, but then you've got the sad people like me who genuinely love it and never step away and shun the management roles and just try and find more opportunities to sort of solve problems using Excel or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I was first starting out, I sort of thought the only way to advance and have more success in a career was to get quickly into management, get a bigger team, the bigger team, keep having a multi-level team and eventually just manage the whole world. And that was what I thought success looked like. After kind of seeing a few more people's careers, that is one path. Then there's other people that just go really deep, say into, they could be a data scientist who's just fantastically versatile and valuable. And they could have a very senior career being comped extremely well without managing a single person, so they have these very senior individual contributors. And then there's people kind of in between that like to still get their hands dirty, also enjoy mentoring, but, would try to keep the team size down a little smaller so that they can still actually do day-to-day. So I think in that sense, they're pretty similar. There's sort of different flavors you could go down paths for in the data analyst world. So that's, yeah.
Is it worth us talking about the tools? Because I mentioned Excel, and I suspect this is going to be a key difference as well. I suspect most financial modelers are Excel users predominantly. Ideally, especially with Fullstack, we try and get people using things like Power BI a bit more. But Excel is still the tool of choice and probably will be for most modelers in those typical career paths. What's it like from a data analyst perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would have to agree with that sentiment, and a little biased because I also started as an Excel jockey, and I think especially now with Power Query, once people can get into that, it really actually opens up the ability to do a lot more than we used to be able to do in Excel, or at least kind kind of streamlines the things that we used to do in an extremely clunky way before using Power Query. So I always think Excel, for people who want to be in data analysis or data science, is a great first tool. For me, it's a great exposure to column and row thinking and thinking about table structures. You can actually see the records. You can manipulate the cells just by typing in them. You can use formulas, so you could start to learn logical thinking there. Whereas if you were to try to jump directly into, say, SQL or Power BI, I think those concepts are a little harder to grasp if you haven't kind of fumbled around in Excel first a little bit. So yeah, we're big in the data analysis world. Everybody should touch Excel. It's, I challenge you to name a company that doesn't use Excel or Google Sheets. Good luck naming a company that doesn't use one of those. And then I think after that, we really like to see people using one of the major dashboarding tools, Power BI or Tableau. They're just fantastic for data storytelling, creating visualizations, and automating some of these processes on the back end. You should see what Aaron does for us at Maven, aggregating all these different sources together and creating these nice dashboards. So everything just comes to us at our fingertips, and it's refreshed nicely. So we love Power BI. Tableau is great too. They're kind of neck and neck for market leadership. SQL, I'm a huge SQL guy. I got into SQL a little later in my career. I'd say that's the one thing I wish I had done earlier, because that unlocked so many possibilities for me, and I genuinely love it every day. And then folks who are interested in kind of more data science slant, I think you want to go towards a modeling package, either Python for data science or R. You could also think about things like SAS, SPSS, but typically I wouldn't recommend going right towards those. I would say Python or R. Those are the ones that you're going to use more on the job. You don't need a license specific from your enterprise. So kind of long-winded answer, but I think those are similar tools, and then a couple more that I think are really valuable on the data analysis side.
And I think that's where the two typical personalities, roles, whatever it is, financial modeler and data analyst, deviate quite a lot, because most of what you've just talked about there, apart from a very small proportion of financial modelers, I don't think modelers go into. I think they tend to stick within Excel. My sense is that data analysts are far more comfortable coding in whatever language you're using. They are far more comfortable with that sort of mindset of being a coder. Power Query, as you mentioned, is a huge boost for financial modelers in Excel, because you can essentially use it without writing a single line of code and do a huge amount to automate processes. But yeah, that's kind of, so the other big difference for me as well, having done a lot of the Power BI content with Maven, is I think data analysts have this 3D view that financial modelers tend not to have. You mentioned modelers thinking in rows and columns. In Excel, timelines being across columns. And if you want to enrich data, you add a column. It's very kind of explicit what you're doing. And my sense is that analysts are far more in tune with that ability to have relationships set up, as you do in Power BI, and you're pulling on data, but you don't have to explicitly create things and put them in front of you to make things work.
Yeah. I'd say that sounds about right. I think there's a spectrum of it. There's, I had an entire career for a while where I never touched a Power BI or SQL, and I just worked in Excel for probably almost 5 years, and helped a lot of businesses and had a lot of fun with it. So I think you can go a long way even without coding. But then if you can do SQL, if you can do DAX and Power BI for customization, if you could pick up Python or R, it unlocks tremendous flexibility that allows you to do so many different things for a business. So yeah, that's great.
All right. So what about advice? Like, if maybe we should do this going around, you first, then me. Like, if you could give one or two bits of advice to a budding data analyst based on your experience, what would it be? And then I'll answer the same.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So I have been thinking about this. Obviously, we're in the business of helping the exact person you're asking about. So, we've got a lot. So I'm going to try to pick one.
You can't say sign up for Maven, by the way. That's
exactly.
And I can't say sign up for Fullstack.
I'll pick. I could say sign up for Fullstack, maybe.
You could.
Loophole. I would say too, one thing that kind of I didn't do when I was starting out was being really conscious about my learning trajectory and what I wanted to master. I think I sort of I got a job and I learned the things that were right in front of me and the opportunities that I saw kind of at that job versus picking my head up and trying to see the entire playing field of what other things are out there. And I think if I had done that, instead of being an Excel jockey for 5 years and then getting into SQL, which ended up being kind of my true love, I think I would have picked my head up earlier and learned more about true relational databases, dashboarding tools, that type of stuff, probably gotten into the modeling stuff a little bit earlier, like data science type stuff that I did a little bit of later. So I think that's kind of what I would say is, don't just focus on what's right in front of you, kind of look around and see what are all the areas that might be interesting to you. And for the first few years, I think your goal should be to try to sample a whole bunch of different things to figure out like what you truly love and can get excited about. Because once you find those things, it's just night and day. You'll do the work in such an easy way. It won't feel like work, and you'll go to town once you find the things that you really get into. So what about you, Giles? Well,
yeah, so I won't do this for a data analyst because I wouldn't know the answers. So as a financial modeler, I'd say two things. Number one is, I touched on this earlier, but try to become more than just a number cruncher and to step back and ask lots of questions. Who are your stakeholders? Why are you being asked to do what you're doing? What questions are you trying to bring answers to the table for? Are they the right questions? What data and assumptions have you got? Are they good enough? Can you refine them somehow? So becoming more than just the guy that solves the problem is hugely important, because I suspect that does put a cap on career progress if you never, and I think it's a really proactive decision for people to make, to say, actually, look, I'm going to step back and try and think commercially and be quite astute about what's going on. The other thing I would say is be patient. There's an element of learning that I don't think it's easy to shortcut, in a sense. If I think back to most of the experiences that have taught me the most, they've generally been quite stressful on high profile projects. It's been big challenges that I've had to think very hard about how to overcome, or I've had to do a lot of Googling and find other people who've done it before. And you can't really shortcut that. We do a lot of stuff in Fullstack where we do challenges the same way you guys do on LinkedIn. So we're trying to find ways to kind of minimize the time it takes to learn and get that experience. But there's an element of just having to be a bit patient and take your time and accept that it may take years to kind of build that toolkit that sits behind you of things that you can turn to at any particular time when you're facing a challenge.
Yep. Yeah. Fantastic. So this might be a good time to transition into the Fullstack offering. Could you tell us a little bit more about the upcoming cohort that's starting in September, what people can expect?
Yeah, so as a bit of background, we are a training community. So there's training content that is pretty standard in terms of it's pre-recorded videos and case studies, and we take people from the fundamentals of Excel to advanced financial modeling, and then we look a lot at technologies and other tools that can enhance a modeler's capabilities. It's how you and I started talking, because essentially Maven and Fullstack are working together, and at that level, our Fullstack members have got access to the Maven content, and we focus them in on Power BI and Tableau in particular. So there's that, but it's also a community, and we're really big on this idea of getting people to share their experiences and help each other, and when they face a challenge in their jobs, to share it with the community and get feedback from other people. So that's what we think makes Fullstack quite unique, this sense of coming together. Modeling can be a very, very lonely place, and I don't know if that's the same in the data analytics world. When you are stuck on your own at 2 a.m. and your balance sheet doesn't balance, it's a very, very lonely and stressful place. So actually having a community of people where you can probably share that frustration and that experience is, we think, pretty valuable.
Yeah, that's fantastic. When is enrollment opening up? Are you guys already open right now?
So it's open for registration, depending on when we release this. It's potentially in a super early bird phase or an early bird phase. Registration will stay open until just before the end of August. And then we shut down for registrations, and we just focus in on getting the new cohort up and running and embedding them in the community. And it's a 12-month membership. The founders are extremely active. We do a huge amount of work throughout the year, and there's this kind of goal that we have for people if they get through all of our accreditation process, because that's a big part of what we do. It's case studies that are reviewed and tested, that you end up as this kind of holistic modeler that can do the modeling stuff in Excel, but actually they understand the fundamentals of data analytics and visualization skills and communication skills, and they can tell a story and kind of approach things how they need to for every single particular project. That's probably the fundamentals of what we do. So yeah, and I'm sure we'll put the links, but people can book time with me and check out the website and find our brochure if they want to. I'll stop selling Fullstack and I'll ask you. So tell me about the bootcamp, John, because I know this is a new thing for Maven.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'd say that's the first thing I'll say is we have historically focused on self-paced training with instructor support, where folks come in and they tell us a little bit about their goals. Are they interested in getting into data visualization? Do they really want to be relational database gurus? Are they kind of want to do exploratory analysis, things like that? And we point them into a path of our courses that are all taught by the Maven instructors that will kind of gear them towards that. But it's all been self-paced video series to date. And so this upcoming bootcamp starting in September, it's going to be the first time that we're doing live training, hands-on sessions with instructors, career coaching, things like helping people get their resumes together, getting their LinkedIn game tightened up, doing interview prep. So it's kind of taking the stuff that we've done historically, advanced Excel, Power BI, Tableau, SQL, and machine learning, and then building on that with some more career-oriented content, some more content about kind of how to think like an analyst, things like putting together measurement plans, how to pick the right KPIs, kind of what a good communication strategy is, things like that. So we're really trying to give people all the skills that they would need to land that entry-level data analyst job. And we're putting our money where our mouth is on this one with a money-back job guarantee. So as long as people come through the bootcamp, do everything that they're supposed to, participate in all the sessions, apply to a certain number of jobs every week afterwards. If we can't help you get a job, we refund the full cost of tuition. So we actually agreed to put that money back guarantee in place before we even solidified the curriculum, because it was so important to us to put us on the hook, basically, to really deliver on what people want, which is being able to get into a job. So we'll have some of the additional things that we'll have that we haven't in the past. There'll be live in sessions with instructors. There'll be group projects that are sort of a competition type structure where 4 or 5 people will work on an Excel capstone and compete against the other teams that are judged by instructors and given feedback on how they could improve, with the goal of, for these especially, to put together these portfolio projects that when an employer says, hey, how much experience do you have in this certain area, they can just package up well, I've done this project that's extremely similar. It's a job simulated thing that I worked on with multiple people. This was my role. Here's the business challenge that we solved. Here's the technical stuff I did. Here's some visualizations to show how I communicated it. So to really arm people trying to get that, that first job. And the last thing I'll say about that is we've been talking about exclusively a full-time program. What I've been shocked by is just the overwhelming demand for people that have jobs that can't do a full-time program to do sort of an evening or nights and weekends program that's similar to what you guys have been running. And I don't know why we didn't just copy exactly your format, because it's awesome. But we initially said, we want to serve the person that is trying to land that first job. And that's versus the person that's kind of early career and wants to accelerate. And now we're sort of thinking like, we may also launch the part-time one a lot sooner than we thought, just because it's probably been somewhat like 6-to-1, the demand of people that have said, you know, I have a job, talk to me when you have a night program. So should have just copied you earlier, and I think we will soon.
And do you, so that it sounds amazing. I love the job guarantee element. That's pretty amazing. Is there a type of person that you're looking for? Like, is it for new analysts or not?
Yeah, I think for this, for the initial boot camp, that's the full-time cohort. That's definitely going to be people who don't currently have an analyst job, but want to get into it. So you could be fresh out of school, no job experience. You could be somebody who's been doing something different for years and you want to transition. But I would say the biggest criteria is your goal is to land your first job in data analysis, business intelligence. And that's the biggest criteria, because that's what we're designing this to do, is to get you into a job by the end of it. So yeah, it should be fun.
Good. All right. Well, I think that was everything we thought we were going to cover, and probably more. So yeah, thanks, John. It's always good to talk. And you know, I'm sure we'll speak a lot with each other anyway, because we see each other on the Fullstack kind of catch ups every now and then. And equally, I'm sure we'll put the details below for people to find out more about the bootcamp as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a lot of fun, and I'm getting excited about both the offerings just talking about it. So let's fill them up and meet these new students in the cohorts. It'll be a lot of fun.
Excellent. This is the point where we need some amazing marketing people to, when I count down from 3, for it to just switch out into something amazing that has the Maven logo and the Fullstack logo. And I'll go 3, 2, 1.